Welcome to the Karlie and Brooke channel. My name is Brooke and today we're going to talk about writing groups and why they are so important for both your development as a writer and for the community that it builds. If you don't know what writing groups are, it's a great way for writers to get together, to review each other's pieces, and to point out things that could be improved about each other's writing. A lot of artists do this, photographers do this, and it's a great way to learn from each other and to build each other up and to learn from constructive criticism. So without writing groups, it's really hard to know what you need to do to improve and to notice your own flaws. A lot of other writers will point this out to you when you're doing writing groups, and it's so beneficial. Also, it's a great way to spread knowledge for free. And then on top of that, you gain friends. So when you go to these writing groups, you get to know other writers, you get to feed off of their energy, and it makes it a lot more fun and exciting. So I recommend looking around to see what writing groups you can be a part of. You can do this in several ways. So you can go to Facebook and just search your genre, and a lot of writing groups will pop up, and that is one excellent way to find writing groups. Most of those writing groups will be online, some of them will be in person. And there are benefits to both. Online writing groups are sometimes easier to attend frequently. In-person groups tend to be a little bit more difficult to show up to, but there's also a personal element to being in person that you don't get when you're going to writing groups that are online. So I would recommend trying both and see what works best for you. So we're going to talk about what to expect and what different formats there are. So there are different formats to writing groups. You can do what I call first chapter writing groups, where you review each other's chapters, not necessarily first chapters, but each other's chapters that you've written recently, and go through and line edit them, look at the story elements and make comments and say, hey, like this could be improved here, this didn't quite grip me, this doesn't make sense, this probably wouldn't happen in this situation. And it's a great way for you to take your chapter back and make the edits to make that chapter better. In addition to chapter critiques, you can also do what are called manuscript critiques, or even, first, second, third act critiques. And you send your writer friends those acts or the full document, and then they will review the full thing. And it really depends, both have benefits. But it really depends on how far along you are, both as a writer and in your writing process. Because if you're not very far into your book, you're not going to be able to send the full document to another writer. Also, if you're a newer writer and you're still working on your craft at a line level, then going to a first chapter critique is going to be more beneficial for you. But if you don't understand story structure, writing a full book is probably going to be a big waste of time unless you're just naturally super talented at writing, which very few people are, and I wouldn't expect that from yourself. So before you show up to a writing group, make sure you read a couple books on writing, get a basic understanding of story structure, and then you show up with your first chapter and really just expect that it's going to be destroyed. It's going to be torn apart. People are always going to have something to say about it, whether they're right or wrong. And then when you come back and you make those critiques and those changes, really think about, are these the changes that I want to make? Is it still my piece after this change? Is it still something that's going to appeal to my audience? Because there will be comments that are not necessarily what you want them to be, but that's not to say that there won't be good comments too. There's a reason that you go, there's a reason that you're there. Make sure you're really listening to that feedback. Notice if multiple people are saying the same thing. If multiple people are saying the same thing, it might be something to listen to. And I would definitely recommend listening to the people that are more your target audience than people who aren't. Or at least ask yourself, like, would my target audience still like this, whereas this person didn't? An example that I could come up with in a writing critique that I went to, one of the writers didn't like another writer's archaic language or lack of archaic language. It was written in a prior time, supposed to be semi-historical, like fantasy based off of a certain historical time period, but her language sounded very modern. And one of the beta readers did not like that because it was based off of a certain time period. But another writer who was a bit younger didn't care at all that it was a more modern language. And that was just a difference in age, and it's a different target audience. So that's one example of listening to your target audience, listening to your beta readers, really taking a step back and saying, is this feedback what will make my piece better? So that's one thing to expect. Also, when you go, we usually critiquers will, when they meet in person or even online, if they do a Zoom meeting, they'll have one person go and the second person go, and they'll usually time it for about 2 minutes, talk about the things that you think are really awesome and that you loved about the piece, and some things that you think could use some improvement. I always recommend starting with the things that you like, and even if you didn't like anything about the piece, try and think up something that you did like, because there's probably something there. Everyone is talented in something, and we all have our strengths and weaknesses. But make sure that you really think of something that you liked about the piece, because that'll make the person receiving the feedback feel a little bit better and feel a little bit less like you're attacking them. We want it to be a safe space and not make people feel like they're being attacked. And of course, when you're doing constructive criticism, you're not attacking them, but sometimes it can come off that way if you have nothing good to say. So always think up at least one thing good to say about the piece, and then go into your constructive criticism. And then even at the end, it might be helpful to add another thing that you liked, or even reiterate what you said you liked before. It always kind of softens the feedback just a little bit. Of course, you don't have to do this, but it does make that feedback land a little bit better. When you are receiving the feedback, make sure that you are just listening. You don't have to argue. Please don't argue with the feedback. Just accept it, listen. Maybe ask questions if you don't quite understand the feedback, or if you are kind of wanting to get maybe a little bit more recommendations to get a better idea of what they're talking about. All of these are good things to do, and it will help you come away from the critique group with a better idea of what to do next. Another thing that you can do, if you're not able to find a group that you love, you can start your own group. Reach out to all your friends, say, hey, do you want to join my group? Decide what kind of format you want to do, whether it's one group, couple acts, chapters, a whole book. And then if you do a whole book, maybe limit like how often you want to do a book, how often everyone in the group can submit a full book. And then set up a Discord channel, a Slack channel, invite everyone into it, keep up some conversation, some dialogue going, get to know each other, and it becomes really fun. I hope this is helpful to you. If it is, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when our next video is up, and thank you for watching.